Hello everyone, Thijs here again, and this time with a second card review of Un'Goro. I have been spending some time at the Bahamas, that is why it got a little delayed, but had a great time there. And as we all know, a lot of cards were reviewed also at the Bahamas during the Hearthstone Championship. And I just want to go shortly over all the new cards that have been announced now. Around 25 cards that we will discuss, going shortly over them. And the first card that I want to talk about is the Molten Blade. It's the 1 mana warrior weapon. It's a new weapon for the warrior class. Warrior already having quite some weapons, but this is definitely a really interesting one. Molten Blade, each turn, this is in your hand, transform it into a new weapon. So it's kind of like a card that will transform itself to a new weapon every turn. And you kind of look for, of course, the good weapons to get. You're definitely looking for War Axe, True Silver. Maybe weapons like Assassin's Blade can be really good, but you of course have to still pay the mana for these weapons. And it's not then just a 1 mana weapon. It's kind of how the Zeros works, so it keeps transforming itself. How good will it be? I don't know. I think it is alright. I kind of compare it with Melkorok, that it gets you a random, but this of course can choose a weapon. I don't know which deck really wants to play this kind of weapon. I don't think it's a great weapon for an aggressive deck from the warrior. It might be some mid-range warrior that might want to play it. I don't think a control warrior wants to rely on what weapon you get from this. And don't forget guys, you still have to pay the mana cost for it. So yes, you can think of the Doomhammer, yes you can think of the True Silver, yes, you can think of a third War Axe. I think these are the weapons you're mainly looking for. But it will probably be hard to hit. I think it is a solid card, but will be hard for the warrior to fit in a current warrior deck. It is a card that wants to be more into a mid-range archetype. And then you probably are sometimes forced to play it once you are hitting the 4-5 mana curve. So you're cannot rely too much on this is the weapon I really want to get. We'll see how much play we can get this one in. And here is the Warlock Legendary. The Warlock Legendary is a 2 mana 2/2 Clutchmother Zavas. The card got revealed by Raynet already. And a really strong card, I would say. Whenever you discard this, give a +2/+2 and return it to your hand. So what do we see here? It's a card you kind of want to discard. It is kind of like a silverware golem. But instead of like getting the minion on the board, you can keep, like you want to discard it and it returns to your hand and it stacks stronger. Once you're hitting one time, it's a 2 mana 4/4, so it's already quite strong. But you might want to like discard a little bit more. I think this is a great example of it not being an insane broken card or like a really weak card. I think this legendary is good, but I don't think it's broken. And it's not like an Edwin, where it also has like a +2/+2 mechanic, but it can go insane. It's way too hard to do that with a discard mechanic. But with now also already seeing better discards cards coming in, maybe we will even wait for more discard cards from the Warlock. We saw the 4-drop already, what I think is a really, really good card. This card might become better and better with knowing more about the new expansion. But already, it being a 2 mana card, it not too reliable at all. I think it's a legendary, so we can only play a 1-off of this card. But I think you also don't want to play like a 2-off of it too much. Definitely think a good card. We'll see in discard Warlock decks. Corrupted Mist. 2 mana Warlock spell. Corrupt every minion. So we already know what the corruption can do. I have been playing it quite some in my Warlock decks in general. But here we have the Mega Corruption. Corruption every minion. So every minion will get corrupted and get destroyed them at the start of the next turn. It's kind of comparable to Doomsayer. Where this is a Doomsayer where you can say this is gonna work every time. Every time I play this, it is gonna work. There is one weaker thing into this card compared to the Doomsayer. And that is that, yes, every card gets corrupted, but your opponent still has the turn to play new minions on the board. And these new minions are not gonna get a corruption. So the new, it doesn't really, in some way it delays a turn of everything will die, but in another way it doesn't, because your opponent is still able to play new cards. I definitely think this is a better card than Corruption. Like, having this kind of effect is quite insane for 2 mana. Like, I think if you compare it to cards like Hellfire, this might be a better card. Like, you just don't have to, have every minion being 3 health, or with Demon Wrath being 2 health. No, it just destroys every minion. Yes, you take the damage. And this might be a problem for Warlock now, because Reno Jackson rotating out, how is the Warlock getting heal gain? That might be the biggest problem for Warlock. And yeah, because Reno rotates out, you're not really looking for playing a Highlander variant anymore. I don't really know how you want to play a Corruption deck. What do you want to do with a Corruption deck? What is the playstyle? Reno is like a playstyle of, I don't want to die, I want to survive as long as I can. But I don't know how, and a Corruption wants to do that too, but I don't know what for an archetype Warlock will go to that can fit in the card. But in general, card seems quite nice. I like the card a lot. I wonder how much play we can see it in. It's definitely a card that might now be hard for Warlock to, to find a way to play the card. Unite the Murlocs. Here we go, guys. The quest for the Shaman. Unite the Murlocs. Quest summon 10 Murlocs. Reward Megafin. Now everybody is of course asking what will Megafin be. I hope it's not next to it. No, it's not. There we go. Here is Megafin. 5 mana, 8/8 Battlecry, fill your hand with Murlocs. So you need to play 10 Murlocs. And if you played 10 Murlocs, then you summon the Megafin. That also Battlecries, fill your hand with random Murlocs. So your hand gets filled with new cards, with random Murlocs. I think it's quite a strong quest spell. It's definitely, if you hit it, it's gonna be insane and it's gonna be really strong. But 10 Murlocs, you need to play 10 Murlocs first, and that might be really difficult, getting 10 Murlocs in play. We have some new Murlocs that are definitely good, that are definitely can fit in the archetype of Megafin and a Shaman Murloc deck. Everything is awesome rotates out, so that might hurt the deck a little bit. I actually think if that card will still be in, it would also be way too good. It kinda is like a Neptulon in some way, but a better one, a way better one. I have a hard time saying how good it will be, because needing to play 10 Murlocs is a lot, guys. Like, getting 10 Murlocs in play is really difficult. But maybe, and it's one thing that people might forget a little bit about the quest mechanic, and this is what in my opinion overrates the quest mechanic a little bit. Quests takes a card. It will take a card spot. You will have one less card by having a quest in your hand. Yes, you play it at turn 1, but it's like turn 1, I don't do anything besides summoning the quest. And this is a thing that might hurt the deck a little bit, because Murlocs already have really poor card draw. So you have to summon 10 Murlocs. You have to summon 10 Murlocs. It's really hard to summon 10 Murlocs. I wonder. I have a hard time really calling this card, but I think it will be a reasonable archetype. I definitely think it's for Shaman quite okay, but I'm not sure how competitive the deck will be. Kalimos, Primal Lord, 8 mana, 7/7, the Shaman Legendary, guys. And how can a Shaman Legendary not be a 7/7? That's a great question, right? So here we got, instead of a 4 mana 7/7, we got an 8 mana 7/7. You're like, yeah, well, why would I play an 8 mana 7/7? Well, I can say you, with this Battle Cry, you might consider it. Battle Cry, if you played an Elemental last turn, cast an Elemental Invocation. So, what are the invocations? These are 0 mana spells that are having insane effects. The 0 mana spells are deal 3 AoE damage, if I'm correct, only to enemy minions. So deal 3 damage to only enemy minions. Deal 6 damage to the opponent hero. Heal your face for 14 or something. and one more, but 8 mana 7/7. Let's just look at the cards first. 8 mana 7/7 if you played an elemental last turn. So, and this is really a thing that comes into the elemental cards. Elemental cards need a setup. You have to play an elemental before elemental cards are playable. So you need to set this card up. So you need to play at turn 6, turn 7 an elemental, and then you can play this card 8 mana 7/7. Play summons a 7/7 with a really crazy effect, and I think the effect is really good because this is just like an kind of crazy Abyssal Enforcer where you can like deal 3 like in. I think that's like probably the most common spell you want to use with it. So it's just an 8 mana 7/7, deal 3 damage to every to your enemy minions. So it's like an Abyssal Enforcer that doesn't deal damage to your own minions. It can deal 6 damage to the face, what is kind of like a crazy way of a fire elemental maybe. It can heal yourself, guys. It can heal yourself for 14 or fill the boards with 1/1s. That was the last spell. So that's kind of like an Onyxia in some way. The flexibility of this card is the power of this card, because there are like the effects it gives are really strong. There are some really strong effects, and the flexibility of either healing for 14, dealing 3 AoE damage, dealing 6 damage in the face, or going for like a more board space oriented play. I think the flexibility of this card makes the card really good. It's heal for 12, but still kind of the same. It's the same point. I think the flexibility of this card makes the card quite good. I think it's a really good legendary for Elemental Shaman deck, and we will see this card played in Elemental Shaman decks. And here another Shaman card, and another Shaman card going towards the Elemental mechanic. As I already explained, I think Elemental cards are really a great card. I think what the Elemental card does to Shaman, to Hearthstone in general, I think Elementals are a great concept. It's something you need to set up. It's something that you need to really think about to set it up in the correct way. And your opponent sees cards coming too. So your opponent can also like reply in a way of, okay, he plays this Elemental, he might want to follow it up with, for example, the Stone Sentinel next turn. What do I want to do about it? So I definitely think it's a really healthy mechanic for Hearthstone. A mechanic that we kind of maybe missed. It's in some way predictable, but in some way also need a lot of thought. And that's something I really like. Let's look at the card. 7 mana 4/4 Battlecry. If you played an Elemental last turn, summon 2/2/3 Elementals with Taunt. So it kind of looks like a little Dr. Boom effect of 7 mana 4/4 summon 2/3 Elementals with Taunt. And this is quite a good card, I think. It's getting a card where you play like a 7 mana 4/4 with 2 mana 2/3s. It's definitely good to have it all together in one card. Sometimes you kind of can play these cards already with like a Feral Spirits, but you overload yourself because you kind of summon a Feral Spirit, so that's worth like 3 mana. But just having like the option, I'm not sure if you would like to play 2 offs of the card, but it's definitely a pretty solid card, especially if you can follow it up like with a Fire Elemental into the Stone Sentinel into another Elemental, because this card is also an Elemental itself. You help your other Elementals to get the effect off too. And Elementals is a thing that you want to like keep going on with to make it really strong. Having a 7-drop that might be in there, follow it up with the 8 mana legendary we just saw, might be good. It's also a more defensive Elemental of summoning 2 taunts. So definitely think it's not like the best Elemental out of the set, but probably a solid one for the Shaman to make an Elemental deck really viable. And here we have a crazy quest, guys. The Caverns Below, the 1 mana quest for the Rogue. Quest, play 4 minions with the same name. Reward Crystal Core. So we have seen already a lot of quests. And I was a little, to be honest, I was a little worried about the quests. The problem with what I had a little bit with the quest was, if you look at the Shaman quest, if you look at the Priest quest in general, it says summon X amount of minions, summon X amounts of whatever, reward this. And the problem I had with that was I felt like deck building was like getting a little not rewarding anymore. Because if you have to play like 8 Death Rattles, it kinda, the deck builds itself already. And at the end it might look like a Jade Druid deck where 28 cards are already like out of it. And there is like 1 or 2 cards people keep a little changing. But the deck building is not really there anymore. And this is a way more crazy quest card that might do the work of not having like the standard deck build and kind of like a crazy effect, not just reward, having the insane reward on it. What is the reward? It's a Crystal Core. What is Crystal Core? It's 5 mana. For the rest of the game, your minions are 5/5. So how do you make a card like this work? You probably want to like make a really cheap deck, a lot of cheap cards, and try to get Gang Up going, try to get Shadow Step going. Probably look at like Swashbuckler, Deckhand, probably like a Pirate deck because they're also really cheap with a lot of card draw. Might make it work that you can play 4 minions with the same name. It's gonna be really difficult to make it work. Maybe like Novus Engineer can do it because you also want to get card draw going. We'll see how much play it will get, but it's definitely a really interesting one. I think with Shadow Step it's the most consistent one. We also have now the 3 mana Rogue spell that is a new card that is like an Arcane Intellect but draws twice the same card. So with that one you draw twice, for example a Swashbuckler, twice something. We will see how good it will be. Maybe you will even see Brewmaster getting back, guys. These are cards I'm all thinking of to make it work. But for the rest of the games, your minions are 5/5. Is pretty crazy. Also, when your opponent bought like Hex a minion, that would also become a 5/5. So crazy reward. Really fun quest mechanic for the Rogue. Another Rogue card here, 5 mana 3/4 combo destroy minion. I was looking at this card and I was like, wow, that's really good. That's just really good. I think this is one of the stronger cards that doesn't get a lot of attention. 5 mana 3/4 assassinate a minion, guys. That's really strong. That's just really strong. I think this is with Ozruk rotating out, with Tom Pillager rotating out for Rogue. This might be a card you look at to like play again, because an Assassinate is really strong. It might need to be good for the meta game. It's a little bit meta game oriented in sometimes being really good, sometimes not good enough. Arena card for sure really got good, but I think like it's just Assassinate is not even that bad at the moment. Like people see you see it getting played from time to time, and now having it just on the card, summon and 3/4, and it should be possible for a Rogue to combo this card. So I think this card's really solid. It's more like getting in there for the Miracle Rogue combo Rogue deck. Not sure how it will be in a general other Rogue kind of decks, but the card itself is really good. I'm not sure if there are Rogue archetypes that I really want to fit this card in, but the card itself is definitely a great card and can always get tagged in the right meta games. This was the Rogue card I was talking about earlier, a Mimic Pot. Draw a card, then add a random copy or add a copy of it to your hand. So it's kind of like a 3 mana, draw 2 cards, but you draw twice the same card. This is a card that you really need for the Rogue quest to make it work, I would say. And I think the card's also pretty good. Rogue already has crazy cards that can make it even better. We have cards like Preparation, and maybe with Gadgets in. I think this card is great for also a more Miracle deck. Arcane Intellect is already a good card. And now I think Rogue can even do more with it. Rogue is also... It has a little bit like a lot of options on the 3 mana slot, so I'm not sure how big of an issue that will be. But I think this is a really good card. Mimic Pot, just drawing twice the same card. it's just like an Arcane Intellect. It will sometimes be worse that you have like twice the same, but sometimes it might also be better if you get like 2 Eviscerates or 2 Backstabs or as we might now think of like 2 Minions. It might be really good. We'll see how good it will be. It's really hard to say, but I think it's just a reasonable spell to now have in the Rogue collection that we will see getting played. Not sure in which archetypes yet, but definitely in some combination with the quest and maybe also with Miracle Rogue decks. Curious Glimmerroot, a new priest card getting in here. It really reminds me on other cards, but let's first put at the card here. 3 mana, 3/3 battle card. Look at 3 cards, judge which one started in your opponent's deck to get a copy of it. So, how good will this card be? It's a little hard to say, but look at 3 cards, guess which one started in your opponent's deck to get a copy of it. There is something that is not written on the card, and that is that that's something that I think Blizzard also said. You will often get class cards first. It's really hard for me to review this card correctly. But having like a look at 3 cards, get with one started in your opponent's deck to get a copy of it, I think it's alright. It's a little hard to like, because it's so much variance in the way that these cards can get. But having this as a priest option, as a 3 mana 3/3, probably a good card, probably a solid card. I'm just not sure what priest will be. Like, I'm a little lost with the priest archetype. With, like, every class really has like an archetype, but I don't know what a priest wants to do anymore. Like, priest is getting like so many ways of putting in a deck. It's not really like fitting any archetype. It's so made to look at your opponent's deck, or so reliable on your opponent's deck at the moment with a lot of these cards, that I'm not sure how that will fit in. Like, I just don't know what for a priest deck would like to play the Glimmerroot. We will see it. Definitely an interesting card, definitely also an interesting mechanic for it. Little bit RNG in some way, so I'm not sure how that will fit out. We will see. Crystal Oracle, 1 mana 1/1, Death Rattle, copy a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. So we do see 2 really interesting things. The first thing is that this card is an elemental. The other thing is that it copies the opponent card that is in your opponent's hand. So it's kind of like a Swashbuckler, but a better Swashbuckler. Why is it a better Swashbuckler? Because it's not just a random card from your opponent's deck, or from your opponent's class. No, it's a copy of a card from your opponent's deck. So in that way, it's a better Swashbuckler, a better Babbling Book. So really good 1-drop for the priest in that way. Again, which priest deck wants to play like a better Swashbuckler? Which deck is really looking for it? It kind of is like this, the 4-drop that the priest already has. I forgot the name, but the 4 mana 4/3 copy a card from your opponent's deck. It's exactly the same, now just a 1 mana 1/1 and a Death Rattle. So it's the only problem with it is that not like the Swashbuckler that you get the direct card. No, you have to. It needs to die first. So it's kind of exactly like a Web Spinner too. It actually is like exactly a Web Spinner, just that it is not a beast. It's just a card from your opponent's deck. It's for sure it's gonna be a solid card. Maybe you can like make some kind of elemental priest. Maybe priest is still able to play like an Highlander version, because priest is not really needing Reno at all, and there is still Kazakas. So maybe you can play like an instead of like going Reno priest with dragons. Maybe you can play Reno priest with elementals now. It's something I definitely will try out. I think this card is alright. I'm just not sure, man, what priest deck wants to play this card. That was already the same with the 4-drop for priest. That was the same. So yes, you want to play it in the. This is definitely like a concept you want to play it in the priest quests, and it's actually a really good Death Rattle for the priest quest. And yeah, maybe the priest quest combined with like a Highlander variant, maybe that will do it. And I'm definitely excited to test that one out. Mirage Caller, 3 mana 2/3, Battle Cry, choose a friendly minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. So we got here exactly the card that we had before as a 6 mana legendary. But now, what was it? Voliars or something? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that one copied, like, all your minions get a 1/1 copy of it. This is kind of the same. Mirage Caller, choose a friendly minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. You're looking for Death Rattle cards to copy with this card, because then the 1/1 effects can be really strong. It's gonna be a hard card to fit in the deck though, because you kind of need a good board, you need a Death Rattle to stay, and then playing a 3 mana 2/3 with this effect, it's gonna be really, really hard to pull it off. The effect is kind of strong if you get it pull it off, but you also pay for it by this card being a 3 mana 2/3. I think for Death Rattle decks this card is too hard to really pull off. Yes, there are some really fancy ways for the card to work, but I think the consistency of the card is gonna hurt your deck a lot. And for competitive, I think this card is just not strong enough. Lost in the Jungle, 1 mana Paladin card. So I first had the thought, like, how do you make this card work? It's kind of like a living root of not having the effect of dealing damage, but just summon 2 1/1 silver hand recruits. So it's like the Alley Cat for Hunter, where you get like 2 1/1s on the board. Well, here we have it. Like for the Hunter you get 2 beasts, for the Paladin you get 2 silver hand recruits. And first I was like, okay, this card is not good enough, and I still stay to that, like, this card is not gonna be good enough until there will be more cards that really benefit silver hand recruits. And we have seen some cards now that might be there. We have seen the Paladin legendary that makes your cards 3/3s. That might be, like, if you go Lost in the Jungle into coin the 6 mana legendary, then you have 2 3/3s with it. That might be really strong, and maybe if we will get more effects like Quartermaster, this card can be good. Until we don't see that one, this card will probably not be good enough. And here we have him. This is the Paladin legendary I was talking about. 6 mana 3/7 Sunkeeper Tarim. Taunt, Battlecry, set all other minions attack and health to 3. So a lot of people looked already at this card. It might not look that insane from the start on, but this Paladin legendary is pretty good. I think this is one of the kind of cards that is so consistent that also makes the card good. You know really what this card is gonna do. A little kind of Jade counter mechanic of setting everything to 3 health. And don't forget, guys, every card becomes a 3/3 and you summon a Taunt with 3/7. Like, this card covers every 3/3 already directly on the board. So if you are at turn 6 and you make, like, let's say 2 or 3 cards 3/3s from your opponent, and you summon a 3/7 Taunt as response to that, that's really good. You also have other mechanics. Don't forget that you can maybe trade first with the 1 minion that is left on the board. After the trade, the minion becomes a 3/1 and you buff his health again. Or you have some silver hand recruits that you have a Quartermaster effect of, that your silver hand recruits becoming 3/3. We just saw the card Lost in the Jungle that you can play before, and then this card, then you also buff 2 cards, 2 and 3/3. So I think this card is really good. This card is really flexible. The card is really solid at all. You can always play this at turn 6 and make 1 or 2 minions 3/3. And yeah, then summon your 6 mana 3/7 Taunt. Really good card. Really not getting the respected shot get, I think, for the card. I think this card is really good. It's just, is it gonna make Paladin good enough? Because Paladin is kind of a little lost. Definitely weaker in this meta. Definitely one of the classes that really needs solid support. This card is a good card, but Paladin already has a lot of mid-range, late game good cards. It's just missing a little the early game, and that might be the hard thing for this card to make it really into the constructed meta game. Next Paladin card is the Hydrologist. 2 mana 2/2. Cute card, isn't it, right? Battlecry, discover a secret. So I actually asked Blizzard when I was in the Bahamas around this discover, because I was like, can I just discover like every secret, or is it also gonna be a paladin, or is it always gonna be a paladin secret, or how does what do you mean with discover a secret? I don't know why it is chosen, but it is 7 out of the 9 times you are getting a paladin secret as discovered. This is just the number that the discover is gonna work. 7 out of the 9 times the secret will be on the paladin secret. So often it is kind of like 2 paladin secrets and 1 secret from another class. Little strange to me, but that's how it works. So often 2 paladin secrets, 1 other one. So it's like, but in general, like in 2 mana 2/2, discover a secret. Discover, guys, we all know how good this mechanic is. We all know how flexible the discover is, and that is something really good for Hearthstone in general, and something you are not too sad about that you pay something extra for it. Having a 2 mana 2/2, draw a card, draw a secret, discover a secret, I think it's alright. Having this as a Murloc deck that draws, also pretty good. Maybe that will add something extra to it, but I think this card is alright. I'm not sure if it is the 2-drop that the Paladin is looking for, but it definitely is something Paladin can get away with. Secrets are easy to play. It's just a little hard, but with these cards, secrets become a real secret, right? Because discover secret, it will see. We will see how good this card will be. Definitely a cool card. Looking forward to see it getting some play. Next card is the Gluttonous Ooze. 3 mana 3/3. Destroy your opponent's weapon and gain armor equal to its attack. Really great tech card that comes into the Hearthstone set now. So with this card, you destroy your opponent's weapon and you gain armor equal to it. If your opponent has a Varax and you play this, you gain armor for 3 and you destroy the weapon. If he has like an Arcanite Reaper, you gain 5 armor. If your opponent has a True Silver, you gain 4 armor. I think this is definitely a better card than the Swamp Ooze. I think Swamp Ooze was never a really good card, but it was like the card that you could use to have like a better effect of removing the weapon. I think this card I think this card can replace Ooze in a more defensive style of deck, that it will fit in better. It depends a little bit which weapons are gonna be popular, but the armor effect is quite great. It's definitely nice that this card is coming into Hearthstone, because it's just a little of a more tech card, and I like to have more tech cards in Hearthstone. I really miss a little bit the tech cards, and this is also a card, if Pirate Warrior will ever be like really popular on the ladder, this is such a great card to play. It's definitely a really good Pirate Warrior counter card. Really nice card. Looking forward to see it some play. I really like that this card is getting into Hearthstone. Next card, 3 mana 3/2, Primalfin Lookout, Battlecry. It is a Murloc, 3 mana 3/2 Murloc, Battlecry. If you control another Murloc, discover a Murloc. So one of the weaknesses of a Murloc deck is always that a Murloc deck was always poor in drawing. Like, Murlocs are not drawing itself. They are all so cheap. They're all 1, 2, 3 mana. You always run out of cards. Maybe this is the solution. Maybe this card can, like, I'm a little hard to say how good Murlocs will be in the next expansion. Murlocs are also something I really don't want it to be too strong. I remember in the old beta where Murloc decks were kind of around. It's really not something I'm looking forward too much that it will become really good. But it will be nice to maybe have some more of the Murlocs decks around. If you control another Murloc, discover Murloc. Not that easy to work on. It's also not really something directly that the Murloc wants to do. But discovering a Murloc discovering one of the stronger Murlocs, because the problem at the moment with Murlocs is also that some Murloc cards are really good and some Murloc cards are really bad, but you have to play them to make the Murloc archetype work. You can also always discover this and keep going with the mechanics. So yeah, you kind of have maybe an infinite way of working, but that will not be working out too much. I don't know, man. It's a card that can work. We will see how good Murloc archetype will be. We need to wait a little bit more, guys, how many Murloc cards are getting into the set. I actually think there will probably be more Murloc cards that are getting into the set. And it's really hard to make a good guess on this card with not knowing how many Murlocs are getting in there and if there are coming some really crazy Murloc cards in. Ozruk, 9 mana 5/5, legendary of the Elemental class. Taunt, Battlecry, gain +5 for each Elemental you played last turn. So, as I already said before, guys, I'm a big fan of this Elemental mechanic. I just really like that it's something you have to set up, something that is also quite clear to your opponent what you are trying. If I play 3 Elementals, you definitely expect me to play Ozruk next turn, right? So, but it's something you have to like work for, you have to set up, and you have to make the right decisions if things are worth it, and it's also, you give a little spoiler to your opponent. I think this is a great mechanic for Hearthstone. But how good is Ozruk gonna be? 9 mana 5/5, gain +5 health for each elemental. Yeah, I don't think this card is like too insane. It kind of reminds me on the card we already have in the set. That is like a 9 mana 5/9, I forgot the name. 9 mana 5/9, that's also in taunt, but that cannot get targeted by spells. But it's kind of a good card, but it never was there because of the meta game just not fitting it in. I think this card is going to be a little hard to. You kind of want to make it a 9 mana 5/15, but there are still single removal cards like Hex, like, I don't know, Siving Soul, Blast Crystal Potion, Mulch. Like, there are just a lot of cards that can also deal with it quite solid. The hard removal cards. So I'm not sure if this card will be good enough to see much play. For me, it feels a little too underwhelming and too hard to set up, especially because elemental cards already are quite expensive to set it up. And here another elemental card, and this is a quite interesting one. Not that fleshy in some way, but on 1 mana 1/2 add a 1/2 elemental to your hand. We have seen a lot of elemental cards that are asking to for a setup, that are asking from, we need you elemental to make you play next turn. And this is kind of like the flex card that you are happy with to run in your deck, I think. It is like a card, yes, you can play it in the early game, but you have like 2 elementals in this card, and you might want to like play this at turn 1 to get also something going and add another elemental in your hand. But it's just really nice to have like this cheap of a card, just having a 1 mana card that you can always use to guarantee the elemental setup that you need for another one. So I really like this card. I think it's a card that that might make the elemental archetype viable. That might make it consistent enough to make it viable. So I like the card. I think it's gonna be an kind of include for elemental decks. I just hope that there will be something, that elementals are just not gonna be Shaman. That there is also other classes that can make the elementals work. I'm still hoping for Mage, what kind of has like that elemental background with the World of Warcraft. I really hope for Mage cards to also still get like maybe like 1 or 2 elemental cards. Maybe a Highlander Priest can do it. So these are the cards I'm thinking of too. I hope that there will be something more than just Shaman that is gonna play these cards. And here we have the Gentle Megasaur, 4 mana 5/4 Battlecry, adapt your Murlocs. So this is kind of like a crazy snowball card. We have seen kind of this effect earlier. Adept is definitely nice and good, or it can be really good, giving Divine Shield, giving Wind Fury, giving extra health. But I don't know, man, doing this on Murlocs, you not kind of want 1 or 2 Murlocs to make it work. It really reminds me now on the card that we have in the Zoo deck for demons, that buffs your demons +1/+1, also 4 mana 5/4. But it's kind of like a solid card, but you need the deck to be good enough to run the card. And that's a little the problem, that Zoo is in that spot where it's like meh, and that's why the card is not that seen. It being a neutral card gives me a lot of hope, because whatever Murloc archetype might be good, this card can always be there to fit it in. 5 mana 5 or 4 mana 5/4 is definitely strong stats too. So it's kind of like a stronger, yeah, we had like the Mechano before, that is now not there anymore, but it kind of is like, for me it looks like a little stronger Mechano maybe. And that might be a good, I think the card is quite okay. I'm not sure if there's any Murloc archetype that will be happy playing this card. And this is a card I'm really excited about too, guys. Tol'vir Stoneshaper. I have called this one of the most amazing cards that comes into the game. Not because it's that it looks that amazing. Not because it is broken, no. Because I just like the mechanic. And I think this is kind of like a really great defensive card. Definitely happy to see cards like this coming into Hearthstone. And it's a neutral card. Battlecry, if you played an Elemental last turn, gain Taunt plus Divine Shield. That's just insane, guys. 4 mana 3/5 with Taunt and Divine Shield is just really good. I think that is just really good. How much play will we see it? Well, I mean, I think a lot of people will be happy to play like an Senjin with Divine Shield, right? Don't forget that your opponent cannot just ignore it, they have to attack it. Definitely gonna be an auto-include in almost every Elemental deck. I just hope that besides Shaman, there will be more Elemental decks getting up there. As I said, I hope for Mage to be there, and I hope for Priest maybe that can do it. These are still the classes I'm hoping for getting, because we are not knowing everything about the set. These are definitely archetypes that I would like to see a little of the Elemental too. The card is not an Elemental itself, so that's something you have to keep in mind, but a really good card for Elemental decks. Volcanosaur! There is a beast getting in here, the Volcano. We, of course, how can we not get some dinos in this new set, right? This being Unguro, of course we need some dinosaurs to get in there too. 7 mana 5/6 beast, a Battlecry, Adept, and then Adept. So we got like double Adept here on this card. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not too big of a fan of this card. I mean, let's say you get like a health and a Divine Shield, and it's kind of like 7 mana. Or like, let's say you get Taunt plus health. Like, that's kind of like the best outcome, right? Or a really good one, because you really want to give this card Taunt. And then it becomes like a 7 mana 5/9 with Taunt. Kind of like a weaker Ancient of War. It's kind of comparable to Inflexible Ancient of War in that way, but like it's just a little worse. And which deck wants to play this card? I don't know, man. Like, I don't think this card is too good. Not one of the weaker cards. Feels a little too as a filler to me to the set. Might be wrong on this, but this is one of the cards that I will consider being a filler. Here a Mage Secret. More Mage Secrets getting into Hearthstone, guys. Mana Blind Secret. When your opponent casts a spell, add a copy to your hand that costs a 0. Definitely a good spell. Definitely a good secret, I should say. Because I always consider the Mage Secrets really bad. I think a Mage Secret deck is still really bad, because there's just not enough good secrets. You have Myra Entity, and then you are already like, well, what are we gonna play more for secrets? Well, this might be good. Like, as long as you're not copying like a coin, and you are able to copy a real spell, I think this card can be really good. You have to be careful that you are not playing this in a way of, yeah, your opponent having the coin still in the hand, because that's just really bad. But there are now, with the, you have the Cabal Lackey, you have some other mage cards that are really benefiting of secrets. It is just that the archetype is still really, really weak. The secret archetype is really weak. Now we are getting here with some like kind of draw mechanic of like you get a copy. So that might make it a little bit more consistent. But it's gonna be hard to make a mage secret deck work still. It's just not powerful enough and it really needs a big buff to make it work. And here we have where we already saw like an elemental card before. Here we got a mage elemental, kinda a mage elemental card of like deal 2 damage, add a 1/2 elemental to your hand. And this card kinda gives me a little hope that there will be more elementals in the set. And this is why I also mentioned mage. I mentioned priest because I see priest being able to maybe make a Highlander version viable of it. But this is like the mage I kind of see as there has to be 1 or 2 more elemental cards getting in there from mage that will make them maybe the elemental cards just... I can just not see Blizzard only wanting to make the elementals there for Shaman. I think there are 1 or 2 classes they are targeting for the elementals to fit in there. And I think mage might be that one. So I'm still hoping for 1 or 2 mage elemental cards. And then I would say, if that is the case, I would say this card might be good. Then having like a deal 2 damage, kind of like flexible way of doing something. Kind of like a little Reek of Frostbolt, but more adding value to your hand as an add a 1/2 elemental to your hand. I think it's pretty decent. So it will be a 1 mana cost, 1 mana 1/2. Can see. So hoping for a little more elemental, and then I can see a great elemental mage being a pretty good thing. It will be a good card for elemental decks, so. Okay guys, and here we have a crazy hunter quest. Okay, no, we are not going there directly. So what is this quest, guys? 1 mana hunter quest. What does it do? Quest: play 7 1-cost minions. Reward Queen Carnassa. So, crazy hunter quest. You don't know yet what you're gonna see, but okay. So 1 mana, play 7 1-drop minions. That's kind of okay. That's kind of doable. It's one of the quests that I would say, yeah, that's pretty doable. 7 mana or 7 1-drop minions. That's for sure doable. And what do you get as reward? As reward, you are getting Queen Carnassa. What does Queen Carnassa do? Shuffle 17 raptors into your deck. 17 raptors. What are raptors? These are the raptors, guys. 1 mana 3/2, battle cry, draw a card. So, as long as you play 7 1-drops, you summon a 5 mana 8/8. A 5 mana 8/8 is definitely good. Or a 5 mana 8/8 is definitely really strong. It's something that has to get focused, that is quite overwhelming in stats. And after that, you summon 15 raptors in your deck that are 1 mana 3/2, draw a card. So this can also kind of be infinite value of like, I play a 1 mana 3/2, I draw a card. I play another 1 mana 3/2, draw a card. I play another 1 mana 3/2, draw a card. So crazy strong hunter request. I don't know, man. If there are any more 1-drops are getting into also for the hunter, and we have seen already some, this card just seems completely super strong to me. I think this hunter quest is one of the really doable quests with really high reward and with, yeah, I don't know, man. Like hunter kind of wants to be that aggressive class. 7 1-drops, you can definitely fit in a lot of 1-drops. I think this is a I think this is a quest that makes hunter viable again. I think this really, and I actually say that, I think this quest is really doable. I think 7 1-drops, you just play a freaking cheap deck with a lot of 1-drops. And yeah, you kind of try to get the reward going early, and then the value is just so insane. So you have like an aggressive playstyle with having, even if that doesn't work, you just hope you hit the 7 1-drops. Maybe you just go with 30 1-drops, man, like something crazy. And then the raptor is going to be calling really strong. So yeah, Carnassa, the reward of the hunter quest, really good. I think it makes hunter getting back there, guys. I think this might be 2017, will not be like 2016 for the hunter. And here another Hunter card. 5 mana 3/4, draw 2 1-cost minions from your deck. Tol'vir. Now just a special Hunter card. Yeah, this card I'm not so sure about. I don't think this is like that great of a card. It kinda is like a 5-drop, but it's kinda the weak slot of the Hunter always. And it's kinda like a good one by, yeah, you draw 2 1-drop minions from your card. So probably a pretty decent card in general. But I don't know, it's like the mid-range archetype where you kinda like the weakness of the Hunter is that you're not dealing with the board. You kinda have like a strong Azure Drake here maybe. And that is pretty alright. It's just alright. It's just not the problem is just this is not like the card that makes a mid-range Hunter viable again. It's for sure a solid card. But it's not a beast, so that's also an issue for me, that this card is not a beast itself. It's alright, but it's not gonna make the Hunter, like, it's not being like that strong that it will be like an auto fit for a mid-range Hunter, and it will also not make the mid-range Hunter viable, so yeah. We'll see. I don't think this is the direction that Hunter will go with. Living Mana! Crazy card, guys. Crazy card. Living Mana. 5 mana Druid spell. Transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions. Recover the mana when you die. So, I don't even know what to say about this card, man. Like, transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions. So, these will all be 2/2 minions. Recover the mana when they die. So, for 4 mana or for 5 mana, you can summon, like, you summon 4 times 2/2 minions. Or 2/2 minions for 5 mana, so you summon 5. But all your mana crystals are gone. So it's kind of like a big tempo swing, where you do a lot for the mana, but then the turn after you have to pay it back for it. It's also it's really an interesting one. It's definitely a crazy one, where you kind of want to like silence your minions afterwards. But that's really hard, and you can get really punished. Like if your opponent like steals one of your living manas, and then they get like a mana crystal ahead of you, and you are not getting it back. So I don't know, it's a crazy card, but yeah, if you get devolved on this or something, like, I don't know, you gotta cry hard. So maybe there's some archetype that can go crazy with this card, but there is quite some punishment also. I will see how much it's played. Crazy spell though, pretty crazy spell. And there we are, guys, with all the reviews. I think we had them all now. These are all cards I have already reviewed. So I hope you liked the review. I will definitely follow it up by a third review once there are more cards reviewed. When we have the final review, I think the third review will be my final review. I hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you next time.